one of the things we talk about is how important it is to get more fat in everyone's diet, specifically healthy quality fats that haven't been denatured by processing. We're also talking this month about how to have a healthy brain. Oftentimes we talk about fish being superfood for the brain. Well, one of the reasons why it's a superfood for the brain is because it provides those healthy fats. So I want to talk about more ways that we can get fats into the diet because they do benefit brain health. There's a lot that you hear about nowadays with intermittent fasting and people going on our advanced nutrition plan, which others might call more of a ketogenic plan or a healing diet. Any of these plans where we're looking at eliminating sugar, eliminating grains, getting more healthy fats in the diet, they will benefit brain function deep down at the cellular level without getting into too much of the chemistry. You just have to understand that your brain thrives better on fat than it does on sugar. So we want to look at ways that we can get more fats in the diet. And there's a bunch of ways, and I just brought a few creative ways actually from my own pantry just to show you what some of the options are. The first thing is obviously avocado. If you're ever in a restaurant and you need to add some healthy fats to a salad, see if they have an avocado. One of the other things you can do with an avocado is literally just eat it in place of chips. So oftentimes in place of chips and salsa, we'll do avocado and salsa. You can make great guacamoles. A simple guacamole would literally be just avocado, half a can of salsa, mix it up, throw in some cilantro, salt, pepper, and you've got some great healthy fat right there. I also wanted to talk about olives as well. Really, a lot of times we're trying to get in more omega-3s. The reality is olives, olive oils, most of those oils, they're actually providing way more omega-6s than omega-3s. And really, once we start to extract the oils out of these things and we're just having the oil on its own, we do have to be careful that those oils don't go rancid. Now, depending on who you speak to, some people may say that the oils go a heck of a lot rancid, so they go rancid a heck of a lot sooner than we would prefer. So I'm a fan of consuming the whole food. Ideally for a salad dressing, I would actually churn up pitted olives, and I would churn up something like lemon juice or apple cider vinegar. You're going to get a much thicker dressing in there, and you're going to be getting the whole food, less of a chance of rancidity, obviously, for the oil. So again, you want to be getting great olives. Like here's some, they're organic. These are black ones. But again, there's such a variety of olives that you can get. There's some incredible olive bars where they really specialize in all the different oils, all the different types of olives. But again, great way is to get them in as a whole food. Again, if you're in a restaurant, you want to get some healthy fats added to your salad, just see if they have some olives. Most times they absolutely would. I did want to talk about coconut and coconut products. There's a bit of a joke in the natural health world that everybody just loves coconut oil, that use coconut oil on everything. Use it in your hair, use it on your skin, use it in your smoothies. And some of us may be guilty of that, including yours truly. But what I will say is that coconut oil, again, just like olive oil, that is the extracted oil out of the coconut. And really, the more whole food would be the coconut in the first place. I prefer, whenever I can get it, coconut butter. And this stuff tastes, I would say, like fudge. It's raw coconut butter, which is essentially a dehydrated form of the extracted meat, which includes the coconut oil in it. And in fact, even when you look at it, the top of it actually, the coconut oil has risen to the top, but once you get through the coconut oil at the top, you get down to that thicker coconut meat, which has created this butter through the dehydration process. It's absolutely delicious. And when you start looking at making a smoothie, certainly adding something like a coconut butter, it's raw, it hasn't been dehydrated, it's fantastic. And you can also be very creative with coconut butter, adding it not only to smoothies and smoothie bowls, but adding it to desserts as well. Coconut oil is exceptional, and certainly I can't tell you how many people have found that their brain works better when they start getting in more coconut oil and coconut products. But do think about some of the other options with coconut, even including the full coconut meat, the coconut butters as well. Not everything has to be coconut oil. And it has been in the news in the last few months about this controversy over coconut oil, providing too much saturated fat, therefore elevating cholesterol, therefore creating heart disease problems. You know what? You would have to subscribe to the theory that elevated cholesterol always causes more heart disease. And the truth is that's a myth from about 50 or 60 years ago. So we know, frankly, that more saturated fat, more healthy saturated fat in the diet is not always going to be associated with a greater risk of heart disease. It's more when that elevated cholesterol becomes oxidized from having too much sugar, having too much pollution in your body through forms of different toxicity, having a lot of inflammation, abnormal hormone levels as well that lead to this oxidation of all that cholesterol in your body. That's more of a concern than just the total cholesterol that you would see. What are a few others that are here? One thing that I would definitely encourage people to look at is consuming more nuts and seeds if they need to get in healthy fats, but definitely look at getting in more seeds typically than nuts. Nuts can be a little tougher to digest, but in any case, if you're consuming nuts and seeds, always try to find ones that are sprouted and raw. When we cook these healthy fats, it does denature the fats, so they're not as well processed in your body, not as well digested. And not only are they good to have raw, but when they're sprouted, it helps to release some enzymes that allow them to be a lot more digestible in the body. So I'm a giant fan of this company, obviously, but anywhere you can find something like a sprouted pumpkin seed or a sprouted watermelon seed. Here we've got some sprouted sunflower seeds as well. The big thing is just to mix it up. We don't get enough variety in the diet. I think one of the reasons why people get a lot of gut issues is because we're not changing up the foods enough. If you really think about it, in ancestral times, we wouldn't have had the luxury of having the exact same food in our fridge every day of the week. So make sure that you're mixing these things up. One thing that I'd also point out too, with most nuts and with most seeds, you are going to find that they will have far more omega-6s than omega-3s. If you really, really want to throw more omega-3s to look after that balance, which again is vital for your brain, look at getting those things from things like flax seeds, things like chia seeds. Again, you can get chia seed powder, you can get flax seed powder, throwing those onto a salad, throwing them into a smoothie, great way of doing it. One thing I would also point out with sprouted watermelon seeds, most people don't realize just how much protein is in a watermelon seed as opposed to the others as well. Still high in omega-6s, but definitely, look at getting that variety so you can increase your protein boost if you like to do that. And a couple more that I would just point out as well. Everyone knows that dark chocolate is more or less a superfood because it does have some benefit at preventing heart disease. But of course, we can't have, dark chocolate where it's 30% chocolate and 70% sugar. Really, we just have pure chocolate on its own. There is no question that chocolate via the cacao bean brings some incredible properties that will benefit your overall health, will help to prevent a lot of diseases. But at the end of the day, it comes from that cacao bean. It's this magnificent food that really should be considered a superfood. Well, cacao butter is absolutely amazing. And for people that are trying to follow more of a healing diet plan or an advanced nutrition plan or a ketogenic plan, any of these types of plans, specifically even the core nutrition plan in Maximize Living talks about getting more healthy fat into the diet, cacao butter is exceptional. This is the oil that's extracted from the cacao bean. It's not gonna look like chocolate. It's actually gonna look a lot more like this. And again, this is incredible though if you wanna get some additional healthy fats into your smoothies. Again, this can also be melted down to be used on desserts. And frankly, a lot of people just use it on their skin as well. So cacao butter, great way to get that oil from the cacao bean, which is the source of the healthy dark chocolate that everybody has raved about for so long. And just last a couple of the real obvious ones too. Don't forget, I think we started this discussion talking about salmon and talking about fish. I'm a big fan of any type of fish that we can add on to a salad, but I would obviously want to make sure that these are coming from bigger oceans. So one of the concerns with fish is when they come from the smaller waters, they're typically more polluted and they're typically fed a lot of bad stuff. They're fed a lot of soy, they're fed a lot of corn and such when they're farmed. So whenever you look at a fish to add to a salad or any other meal for that matter, we want to be looking for something that's wild, and we want to be looking for something as well that comes from those bigger bodies of water, something like the Pacific Ocean or the Alaskan Sea, as opposed to the Atlantic Ocean as well. So those are just a few ways to get some more healthy fats into your diet for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. If you want some more options, obviously check out Max Living Nutrition Plans and talk with your team right here in your Max Living office.